Welcome, everyone, to the first question and answer session for our White House Council for Boys and Men Patreon site. And today we've got Tom Golden, which is me, and Warren Farrell. And we're going to talk today a little bit about Warren Farrell's new book, The Boy Crisis. As you can see by looking behind Warren there, it clearly shows the boy crisis. So Warren, one of the things we could start with is talking about what does a parent, maybe from an intact family, what does a parent from an intact family need to know about the boy crisis?
I think one of the main things is the importance of family dinner nights, the importance of using car trips to interact with the family by having lots of games that are family involved.
Did you say card tricks?
Oh, sorry. That's funny. I sometimes mumble. Car trips. C-A-R.
Car trips.
Yes, right.
I thought you were going to deal them at the dinner.
I'm unfortunately not very proficient with cards.
Might not be a bad idea.
Except that people who play them enjoy the fact that I'm gullible.
Car trips.
Car trips. And so I talk a great deal about the types of questions that can be asked of family members to involve them in being observant of their environments and leading that into questions about their future, their present, and so on. But the most important single thing is that historically speaking, the way that dads have learned to be dads is through what I call the father's catch-22. They've learned to love the family by being away from the love of the family. And one of the reasons that they've done that is that there's about 12 or 13 differences that I talk about in the boy crisis between dad style and mom style. And so dad style is a lot more likely to make moms skeptical. So for example,
Yes.
dads are far more likely to roughhouse with the kids.
Yes.
Moms are just torn inside of themselves. Like on the one hand, they're seeing the kids laugh and they're saying, oh, good.
Don't hurt them, honey.
Having fun. On the other hand, it's like, Jim, the husband, you're getting too close to the coffee table with the kids. Why are you not aware of that? And the kids are going to sooner or later they're enjoying this and they're tumbling and they're falling over each other. But sooner or later, I guarantee you, they're going to get hurt. And what are the chances that they do get hurt? About 95%.
Yes.
And so then the mother says to herself, oh God, I knew it. I should have been more assertive, I should really be careful of the amount of time that I let Tom or Jim to, with the children. And she's even feeling guilty about not having been more constraining of the father. But the father doesn't study things like the boy crisis or anything like this. He doesn't read parenting magazines from when he's a kid. And so he's unable to say things that we now know from the research, that children who roughhouse with their father or mother, and mothers can do this too, children who roughhouse with their father and mother, they learn to differentiate being assertive versus being aggressive. One of the ways they learn to differentiate is that occasionally when they're aggressive, they do fall and hurt themselves. But with the dad there, if they hit their head somewhere or do something too bad, the dad is usually likely to rescue them from the serious hurts, but not from crying.
Yes.
And so it helps the brain's neurons, we now know, and the synapses to connect and make distinctions between when is assertiveness going too far, when is it going down the slippery slope to aggressiveness. But dads don't know that, so dads don't say that, and moms can't hear what dads don't say.
And they do it naturally, don't they?
We do it naturally, but we do something much more powerfully naturally. What I found that dads also do is this roughhousing creates a bond between the parent and the child.
Right.
Dad doesn't explain that, and then he also doesn't explain how he uses that bond because he does it unwittingly and unconsciously. The way he uses that bond is to set boundaries and enforce boundaries without the child becoming resentful, because the bond has created such a glue between the parent and the child that the child wants to have more roughhousing and sees the dad like a roller coaster, like a lot of excitement, but a safety net. And so the child feels safe but excited with the father.
Exactly.
And so therefore, when the father says, okay, no more roughhousing till you finish all your homework, you get changed for bedtime, you get your chores done, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and bedtime's 9 o'clock, no excuses. So, so the kids rush to get their homework done, the other things done. Dad's a little suspicious that the homework got done so quickly, looks over the homework, says, sorry, not good enough, go back. But then the child knows that the time she or he has left between when all the things that are necessary to be done are finished and the time that's been set, that's their time to be able to either roughhouse more or to be able to do something like have the favorite story read to them for bedtime. Mom's going, you didn't leave the option of roughhousing more just before bed and riling the kids up, did you? And the dad goes,
No.
let's see how that works out. So how does it work out? We now know, we now have the data to know that children under dad care have bedtimes that are set later than with moms, but actually get to bed earlier than with moms. Because with moms, the child can say at the end, oh, Mom, I know the bedtime was 8:30, but I didn't finish my homework yet. And Mom goes, oh, my goodness, I don't want to send Jimmy into school without the homework done. Okay, sweetie, I'll tell you what, you can have a bit more time for the homework. So children learn with moms to manipulate better deals. With dads, they learn to deal that if they don't meet the time, then the deadline, there's not going to be an extension of the time in the deadline. Dad says, right. Sorry, you didn't do your homework. You go into school without your homework being done. Bear the consequences of it. Yes. Now, here is the key to all this. There's a slippery slope here. The boys raised predominantly by dads are only 15% likely to have ADHD. Boys raised predominantly by moms are 30% likely to have ADHD. Wow. So let's put those two pieces of information together about the slippery slope and the ADHD. The boy with the dad, he learns he can't manipulate a better deal. He has to do what he has to do in order to get what he wants to have. Yes. That's postponed gratification that he's learning. With mom, he's learning he doesn't have to focus his attention. He gets attention deficit disorder because he is not learning to focus his attention in order to get what he wants to have. He's learning to manipulate the better deal, which does not give him the muscle of focusing attention. Now, right. ADHD has a lot of components to it, and this isn't the only one, but but it's important to know that ADHD, overcoming it, is partly a discipline of being able to learn how to focus and having no option but to focus. So here's the slippery slope. The boy without, or the girl, without postponed gratification built into the parenting process, goes into school and tries to finish homework. But gets distracted by texts and gets distracted by the newest video game on the market and doesn't finish the homework. Begins to notice that he's worse at finishing the homework than his peers are. Begins to feel ashamed of himself. When it comes to boy-girl time, even if he's reading books like The Boy Crisis on the loser line, the girls are not interested in going out with him. They're more interested in the cheerleaders are cheering for the football players, not him. And maybe he's good at athletics, but he doesn't have the discipline to do all the boring routines that make him the hero and the star. And so he begins to not only see he's rejected by his schoolmates and his teachers don't honor him, but he also feels rejected, like that he is a loser. He begins to feel ashamed of himself, which makes him withdraw and get not just into video games in a healthy way, but video games in an addictive way. And when it comes to boy-girl time, he's afraid that he'll be rejected by the girls, and he is rejected by the girls. And so he starts turning to porn to satisfy himself. And porn is okay up to a certain point, but after a while it begins to addict him to dopamine that only increases when there's increased amount of risks that the sexual encounters are taking. And so when he finally does meet a girl, he finds that the girl doesn't feel like she wants to be some puppet in the pornography. So she feels objectified. She withdraws, which proves to him that he is a loser after all, which makes him them withdraw more into porn, more into the video game addictions. And so what could be healthy becomes addictive and also leads to depression, worst case scenarios, suicides. So boys in their early 20s are 6 times as likely to commit suicides as girls in their early 20s, even though boys and girls are equal at the age of 9. So we see this enormous increase in suicide rate among boys. And in worst case scenarios, just imagine this, the boy he feels like everyone at school is rejecting him, his female mates, his male mates, his teachers aren't honoring him. He builds up a deep-seated anger about the people at school who have rejected him, who usually this boy is brought up more by mom, and he has a really sweet side to him, and it's very, and he sees his sweet side, his mother sees his sweet side, but the kids at school and the teachers don't appreciate that about him, and so his anger can, in worst case scenarios, lead to the school shootings that are almost all done, along with other mass shootings by boys who have not had significant father involvement. So that's the slippery slope.
That's fascinating, and it all trickles down from dads setting limits.
Dads setting limits, and and also dads knowing why they are needed, and being able to share that lovingly with mom, and be able to also have what I call in the Boy Crisis book, checks and balance parenting, so that the father is respecting what the mom has to offer, and also articulating what he has to offer, and making compromises in situations that are modified to any given situation that happens. The kid comes home and says, Mrs. Myers doesn't like me, and mom says, oh, sweetie, that's terrible. I'm so sorry you're crying. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make an appointment with the principal. We'll see if we can get you a different teacher. Dad tends to say, in life, you get along. You have to learn to get along with people you don't like. Let's see if we can work this out. I will talk with the teacher, and mom will talk with the teacher, but we'll also talk with the teacher about what you're doing wrong and what you could do differently. Then we'll have a meeting with you and the teacher. And so mom and dad may have a big argument about this. Mom's saying, you're so insensitive, Dad. We don't want him to get off at the beginning of the school years with not having a good experience in education. Is that accurate? Absolutely. But also the father's perspective is also accurate. And that's what I mean by checks and balance parenting. Yes. It has to all be put together. But the most important single skill that needs to be taught in schools and learned is how to hear each other's, our partners or other people's negative feedback without becoming defensive. Because people say, the reason there are divorces is because of children. Others say it's because of money. Others say it's because of sex. None of the above is true. There are divorces because we don't know how to communicate about our differences about money, children, and sex. Yes. And it's the inability to hear each other that creates the foundation of not feeling like we're listened to in the family.
And that takes us back to your car trips and family
yes, exactly.
get-together, because that's where that can happen.
Yes, exactly.
That's exactly where that can happen. And if you don't have that, you're toast.
And so, we now know that we have other really solid data that the amount of many of the dads feel like their job is to provide a good economic foundation for the family to flourish. And we now find that once the family has about $50,000 to $70,000 in family income, almost all the quality of parenting for the children rests in the increased amount of time dad is involved with the children, not the increase in money. So, and what I say in sort of fancy dancy terms is, dad's time trumps dad's dime, if you will.
All right. Yes, indeed. Isn't that the truth? Mm-hmm. Well, Warren, what about families that don't have a dad?
Yes. First of all, the most important way to get a dad is to study why he is needed. Let's remember, before we get on to what to do if you really can't get a dad, that boys and men have historically been willing to die on the battlefield because they were told one thing: they were needed. And when needed, we respond. When we're called a hero, when we're acknowledged and praised for being involved, we will do anything. If women said we'll only marry or have sex with men who walk on their hands, Tom and I would be having hand walking contests.
I'd be practicing.
A short period of time. That's the way we are, right?
That's it.
And so the important thing is to know what dads contribute and to let dads know what they contribute and why they're needed and desired and wanted, and that you're not going to tell the dad how to parent the way you feel
Really?
A dad should parent. So that's number one. But if
and to admire him for that.
And admire and respect him for that, yes.
That fills him up. Men, the fuel is admiration.
The fuel is admiration and respect, and men know that if a woman doesn't admire him or respect him, that her sexuality will only be fake, that her love will only be fake.
Interesting.
And no man, men for fake love, they go to prostitutes because they can close in and close out of the prostitute's involvement. But when they get married, they want real love, and we're dependent upon that. And so, but the big question you were asking there is, what about single mothers that can't get the father involved? So it's really important then to make sure that you get your son involved in Cub Scouts. There's very good evidence showing that boys involved with Cub Scouts develop character, they develop loyalty, they develop integrity, the things that we want from our son. Boy Scouts is also important. Mankind Project now has programs for younger boys and young men, very important, and make great contributions. The boys clubs, boys clubs and Y's are beginning to develop programs for young men. So tap into those. Outward Bound type of programs. Make sure your son goes to camp during the summer. Has camp counselors that are male, so he has people to look up to. Make sure you have male babysitters so that boys can see males in caring positions. Make sure when you talk to your school system about having recruiting proactively male teachers at a young age so that your son can again see caring figures. Make sure your son is involved, and if you have a new infant coming into your home, make sure you teach your son how to feed the infant, how to care for the infant, so he sees and feels good about himself, contributing on a caring level, not just a typical heroic performance level. And then also, so all of these things need to be put together. If you get a mentor for your son, terrific. But even more important than getting a mentor for your son is helping your son become a mentor. Boys make more progress by being mentors than they do by being mentored. Because when a boy is a mentor, every behavior he does is he looks at himself and says, how will the boy I'm mentoring feel about me as a result of doing this? If I steal or do something, I lose my credibility as a mentor. I lose my ability to be needed. And so those are some of the things that a single mom can do.
That's fascinating, particularly the last part about mentoring and how young men are grow through that. And actually what they're doing is they're learning ways to set limits on themselves in the same way that dad would have set on them when they were younger,
Yes.
All of the things you listed were all kind of substitutes for that limit setting.
Exactly.
And competition, and being able to compete and understand that, you are not always the best and you're not always the worst.
Absolutely.
Fascinating stuff, Warren.
Oh, thank
really
you.
Fascinating.
I mean, I was learning every day of 11 years.
Oh my gosh.
Doing this.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell folks about the book?
Yes, I think it's really important to take a look at the parts of the book that talk about how to structure these family dinner nights and how to work with your school system. To make sure that the school system, for example, has not just varsity sports that shines the light on a very small percentage of the school population and leaves your son out many times, but that intramural sports involve all the kids in the school and give attention and focus on all the kids. That there are communication courses taught at an early age in the school system. Empathy courses taught at an early age in the school system, and that you as parents, whether you're divorced or together, that you as parents are communicating with each other and learning how to hear the criticisms that the other ones give, so that your kids have intuitive, they start absorbing that. When Liz, my wife, and I did that, and one of our daughters had trouble with one of her boyfriends, and they came to me for working on this. And when I started to talk with them about that, my daughter said, "Wow, that's what you and Mom did," but she hadn't pieced it all together.
Right.
But as soon as I did piece it all together, it was like it was all there for her.
Yes.
So your kids, as I know you know very well, kids pick up so much body language, so much communication skills. So get your act together, especially if you're divorced. The four must-dos in the Boy Crisis book. Be sure to read about the importance of equal time with both parents, the importance of living close enough to each other, the importance of not bad-mouthing each other, the importance of ongoing communication counseling. And then we need to change the entire cultural zeitgeist. One of the things that we're doing here today is a Patreon for the White House Council on Boys and Men. There needs to be a White House Council on Boys and Men, because everything we have learned to create heroic intelligence is in conflict, is in tension with everything we need to learn to create health intelligence. Heroic intelligence is socialization for a short life. Health intelligence is socialization for a long life. Mm-hmm. And what is better, health intelligence and heroic intelligence? The type of health intelligence that incorporates the best of heroic intelligence is better, but that's a complex process that's changed from what it used to be during World War II, or the years where we had to battle off the Nazis so that we're not under Nazi rule today. So that's one of the reasons we need fathers to help, and the mothers working together to help our sons understand what was good for creating success for a boy in the past is very different than what creates success for our sons in the future, which is combining the best of health intelligence and heroic intelligence.
Interesting. Maybe that's a good place to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. And I highly recommend Warren's book. I've read most of it. I haven't read the whole thing yet, Warren, but it's a fascinating book and well worth it. And there are many, many things that I learned from that book, and I've read quite a bit on boys. Mm-hmm. So that's my endorsement.
Well, thank you.
Even I'd also like to invite everybody. This is our first question and answer for the Patreon site. We're going to have more, and we need you to start asking questions about what you'd like to know. Because if you ask questions about Gondwanaland, we're going to find an expert on Gondwanaland to come in and talk about the next Q&A. And we've got all kinds of experts out there, Warren. We've got Richard Warshak. We've got Leonard Sachs. We've got Michael Gurian. I mean, just and on and on and on and on. So please, let us know what you want to know, and you can join us next time, and we'll have a good time in the process.
We have basically a coalition that we've created of 34 of the world's experts on boys and men's issues to try to create this White House Council on Boys and Men. And so what the Patreon site will be doing is tapping into their expertise and responding to your questions about that.
Yes, and in fact, if you scroll down the post, you'll find a bunch of pictures that are all together. That's all the different people who are commissioners for this group, and it's quite a group. Warren's done a wonderful job in pulling people together. And Warren, you did a good job today. It's been fun and interesting. I always learn something when we talk. I always learn something.
Well, thank you, Tom. And I always find it a pleasure to talk to you. You're such a nurturing and facilitative force, and it's really, that's one of the reasons I feel we've been friends for so many years.
Yes, indeed. It's been a good. So we'll see you all at the next one. You all take care.